Leah adjusted the baby monitor's angle, double-checking that it covered the full view of Olivia's crib. The small plastic device blinked red, then settled into standby mode, humming faintly. It was just a precaution. Nothing serious. Olivia was barely 6 months old, and this was their first child. Paranoia came with the job. Still, ever since they brought Milo home from the shelter, something had been different. Every night without fail, Milo, an affectionate, calm Labrador mix with soulful brown eyes, would pad softly into the nursery as the house fell silent. He would lie down right next to Olivia's crib, press his body flat against the floor and stare, not at Olivia but just above her crib, unblinking, watchful. At first, Leah found it endearing. "Look at him," she whispered to Brian the first time she saw it. "He's guarding her." But by the 5th night, the cuteness had curdled into unease. Milo didn't sleep. He didn't shift or snore or even relax. He just watched. And it was always at the same time, just after midnight. His ears perked, his body tense. "What is he watching?" Leah asked herself aloud one night, heart thumping as she stared at the monitor screen. There was never anything there. Never. They had adopted Milo 3 weeks ago from a local shelter, just after Olivia's colic had started to wane. The timing felt like fate. Milo was calm, patient, and inexplicably drawn to their daughter. The shelter manager gave only a vague account of his past. "He was found wandering near the highway," she'd said. "No collar, minor injuries. He's been through something, we just don't know what, but he's different." Leah remembered the strange burn scar on the side of his neck as if something had pressed hot metal into his fur long ago. He'd flinched slightly when she touched it, but never growled or snapped. There was a gentleness about him, even in his pain. From the moment he met Olivia, Milo had acted like she was his to protect. If she cried, he'd whimper and nuzzle the side of her crib. If Leah picked her up, Milo followed close, never letting them out of his sight. Brian was moved. "Guess we got lucky," he said. "A built-in nanny." But that nurturing instinct soon turned into something else. Milo wouldn't leave Olivia's side, not even to eat, and he never relaxed when night fell. It was like he was waiting for something. Leah first noticed the growling 3 nights later. It was low, barely audible, a rumble that vibrated in Milo's chest as he stood rigidly in the dark. He wasn't growling at the crib. He was growling above it, at the empty air near the mobile that spun in slow, silent circles. Then came Olivia's nightly cries. Every night at exactly 3:13 a.m., Olivia would jolt awake wailing hysterically. Her tiny hands clenched the corners of her baby blanket, her eyes wide with terror. No fever, no signs of illness, just fear. Leah checked the window for drafts. She inspected the crib for sharp edges or loose threads. Nothing. But it kept happening. Then she saw them. Scratches. Faint vertical grooves in the paint just below the nursery windowsill. Too high for Milo to reach. And they hadn't been there before. Leah showed Brian. "Could be from moving furniture," he said, dismissively. "Or maybe Milo jumped up there." "He doesn't jump," Leah insisted. "And these weren't here a week ago." They argued in hushed tones outside the nursery, not wanting to wake Olivia or disturb Milo, who was once again fixed at his post, eyes locked on the crib. 2 nights later, it escalated. At 3:13 a.m., Milo lunged forward and began barking frantically. His claws scratched at the hardwood as he launched toward the crib, teeth bared. Leah rushed in to find Olivia screaming, her body arched in terror, eyes focused on the space above her. There was nothing there, nothing visible. After that, Leah and Brian began sleeping in shifts. Brian took the first half of the night, Leah the second. Neither admitted it aloud, but both were too uneasy to leave Olivia alone. And always, without fail, Milo was there. Watching. "I'm setting up the monitor tonight," Leah said one morning over coffee, eyes bleary from a sleepless night. I need to know what's happening at that time. I need to see it. Brian nodded reluctantly. Okay, but it's probably just her sleep cycle. Or Milo reacting to streetlights. She didn't answer. That night, Leah placed a night vision baby monitor with infrared recording just above the crib, angled to show the entire room. She synced it to her phone and waited. 5:55 a.m. Milo entered the nursery, nose low to the ground. A.m. He lay down in his usual place, alert, unmoving. 13 a.m. The feed fuzzed over, static snow flaring on the screen for less than 2 seconds. When it returned, Milo was upright, ears stiff, body tense. Then, his head turned sharply, toward the camera, not toward Olivia, not toward the door, toward the lens, as if sensing Leah's gaze. Goosebumps prickled her arms. The next morning, she watched the footage back, frame by frame. That's when she saw it, a shadow, just for a moment, flickering in the upper corner of the screen. It wasn't Milo's, it wasn't Leah's or Brian's. It was taller, wrong, distorted, and when it moved, the mobile spun violently for 3 full rotations, before coming to a sudden stop. Leah showed Brian the footage, her fingers shaking. It's probably just compression artifacts, he said. Glitchy night vision, you know how those things are. That shadow wasn't us, Leah insisted. And Milo saw it. You saw how he looked at the camera? He's a dog, Brian replied, flatly. He probably heard something outside, don't spiral. But Leah was already spiraling. The following night, she left the monitor on again, this time with sound recording enabled. 13 a.m. Leah sat in bed, phone in hand, watching the live feed. Milo was already in position. The feed went fuzzy again. Then returned, Olivia stirred, then whimpered, then cried, and then came the voice. Not loud, not angry, just wrong. A whisper, childlike, barely audible. Don't take her, followed by a giggle. Then Olivia screamed. Milo jumped up, barking, snarling at the air. The monitor blipped to static again, this time for 5 full seconds, before resuming. Leah's heart thundered in her chest. She bolted from bed and ran, into the nursery. Olivia was crying but unharmed. Milo stood guard, trembling but defiant, barking at the ceiling. The next morning, Leah called her sister Nina, who had always dabbled in weird stuff, as Brian called it. Okay, Nina said, after hearing the story. You're going to think I'm crazy, but have you ever looked up your house's history? No, Leah admitted. You might want to. Sometimes places carry things with them, especially when babies are involved. That afternoon, Leah opened her laptop and began digging. She typed, in the house's address. A moment later, her breath caught. An article from 1957, Tragedy at Maple Lane Orphanage. Fire claims lives of dozens. 1 child unaccounted for. Leah's eyes flicked to the name listed among the deceased, Jonah C., age 6. Body never recovered. She stared at the screen, her mind swimming. From the nursery, Milo barked once, softly, and then fell silent. The moment Leah saw the article about the fire, she couldn't unsee it. She spent the rest of the afternoon diving into archives, newspaper scans, and old town records. It turned out the house they now called home had been built over the ashes of what used to be Maple Lane Orphanage, a large crumbling structure that had burned to the ground in the winter of 1957. There were photos of the fire, charred beams, collapsed staircases, rows of scorched metal bed frames left in the snow like skeletal remains. One headline made her skin crawl. Tragedy at Maple Lane. 27 children perish in fire, 1 still missing. The article named the child, Jonah Carver, age 6. No remains were ever recovered. Rumors spread in the weeks after the fire that Jonah had been punished the day before, locked in the attic by one of the staff for stealing candy from the kitchen. When the fire broke out, no one remembered he was there. Leah felt sick. That evening, she noticed Milo acting even more strangely. He refused to leave Olivia's room, even when offered food. He stayed curled beneath the crib, growling under his breath when anyone tried to pull him away. His eyes flicked constantly toward the ceiling. Leah couldn't ignore it anymore. She climbed the stairs to the attic. The air grew colder with every step. The attic door creaked open on rusted hinges. Dust filled her nose. It smelled like mold, ash, and something faintly sweet, like singed sugar. She swept the beam of her flashlight across the space. At the far corner, hidden behind an old pile of insulation and forgotten furniture, something caught her eye. It was a wooden box, blackened, scorched, the lid partially open. On the top, a name carved in rough, childlike letters. Jonah. Inside the box were 3 items: a small stuffed bear with one button eye missing, a black and white photograph of a thin, pale boy with hauntingly wide eyes, and a small journal. The leather cover burned along the edges. Leah opened the journal. The handwriting was uneven, erratic, obviously a child's. The first page read, "They say I'm bad. I just want a friend. I'll wait till someone sees me." Her throat tightened. There were more entries, fragments of emotion scribbled between drawings, sketches of a crib, a smiling baby, a dark shape looming over a bed. Heart pounding, she closed the box and placed it gently back in the attic. That night, Milo whined non-stop at the base of the attic stairs. He paced, barked softly, then lay down and stared up as if listening to something Leah couldn't hear. The next morning, Olivia wouldn't eat. Leah tried spoon-feeding, bottle-feeding, even warm oatmeal from her own hand. Nothing worked. The baby kept her lips shut, her face pale, her eyes locked on something invisible near the ceiling. Later, as Leah changed her diaper, she heard Olivia mumbling softly in her crib. "Joe, Joe." Leah froze. Jojo was what her niece used to call her stuffed giraffe. But Olivia didn't have one. She wasn't old enough to name toys. She turned toward Leah, a small smile on her lips, then looked up toward the corner of the room, and laughed, at nothing. By now, Leah was desperate. She called Olivia's pediatrician, rambling through every symptom. The doctor examined Olivia and frowned. "She's physically fine," he said carefully. "But emotionally, it's like she's under stress, not normal stress. Something spiritual, if you believe in that." Leah didn't know what she believed anymore. That night, after much hesitation, she took the stuffed bear from the attic box and placed it on the rocking chair beside Olivia's crib. "Maybe it'll comfort her," she told Brian. He didn't argue. He'd seen the changes too. At 3:13 a.m., Leah watched the monitor. The bear moved. No one was in the room. The bear shifted an inch, then fell over on its side. Milo leapt to his feet and snarled, barking so viciously the crib rattled. Olivia screamed. The screen fuzzed again, the image breaking apart into static, and when it came back, Leah could swear, just for a split second, there were 2 shadows in the room. One human-sized, she screamed, dropping her phone. The next day, she did something she never thought she'd do. She called a paranormal investigator. He arrived the next afternoon with a suitcase full of strange-looking devices, EMF readers, thermal cameras, digital recorders. His name was Victor. He was quiet, middle-aged, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd seen things most people wouldn't believe. He spent an hour setting up equipment in Olivia's room while Milo sat watching him, tense and alert. As night fell, Leah and Brian waited in silence. At 3:13 a.m., the house went still. Then the devices started to react, lights blinking red, beeping rapidly. The temperature in the room plummeted, visible breath forming in the air. Olivia stirred but didn't cry. Victor returned the next morning with the results. He looked pale. "I've done this for 20 years, he said. "There's something powerful in that room, intelligent, and possessive." He played an audio clip. The voice was faint but clear. "Don't take her, she's mine now." Brian stood up, furious. "What the hell does that mean?" Victor didn't answer immediately. He glanced at Milo. That dog's the only reason. Your daughter's still okay. He's not just watching, he's guarding. Whatever's up there wants in. Leah felt her heart shatter. Victor later ran a facial scan of the old photo from the attic, curious to test something. What he found sent ice into Leah's spine. The boy in the photo, Jonah, was not confirmed dead in the fire. Records uncovered years later showed that he had survived. He was spotted in the woods nearby, emaciated and dirty, months after the fire. A few people tried to help him, but he ran every time. Eventually, sightings stopped. He had simply disappeared again. The same day the fire survivor story surfaced, someone knocked on Leah's door. It was Walter, their elderly neighbor who lived 2 houses down. He looked pale, his hand shaking on his cane. "I heard what's been happening," he said. "You need to know I used to work there, at the orphanage." Leah's blood ran cold. "I was only 17, Walter continued. "Just a helper. Jonah, he was a strange kid, quiet, always staring. One night, he broke into the kitchen, stole some candy. I locked him in the attic. Just for the night. It was stupid. I was supposed to let him out in the morning." Leah didn't breathe. "I forgot," he said, voice cracking. The fire started that night. No one knew he was up there until it was too late. By the time I remembered, the attic was gone. He wiped his eyes. "We never told anyone, never admitted it. But I think he stayed. I think he's still there, waiting." Leah sat in stunned silence as Walter turned and walked away. That night, Milo refused to leave the nursery, but Leah had made up her mind. She was going to the attic to face whatever was still waiting. Leah couldn't sleep. Not really. She lay in bed holding Olivia tightly against her chest, listening to every creak of the old house, the sound of Milo's steady breathing from the foot of the bed, the way the wind whispered against the window panes. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the house itself was holding its breath. She had prepared everything. 3 cameras, one facing the crib, one facing the attic door, and one set high in the corner of the nursery, were rolling with night vision. EMF readers were placed on both sides of the room. The lights were off. Milo had not moved all day. He remained by Olivia's crib, muscles taut, tail unmoving. He knew it was coming. At 3:11 a.m., the temperature dropped. At 3:12, the house went completely still. And at exactly 3:13, the attic door slowly creaked open. Leah sat upright, clutching Olivia tighter. Her heart pounded as the nursery filled with a strange pressure, like the air had thickened. On the monitor screen, a shape began to emerge, no longer just a shadow. This time it had form. A small figure, faint but unmistakable. A little boy standing just beyond the edge of the crib. Olivia stirred, then reached out, tiny arms stretched toward the figure. "Jonah," Leah whispered. Her voice cracked. "You're scaring her." The room pulsed with cold. Milo barked, once deep and sharp, then lowered his head and growled. "She's not yours," Leah said, her voice trembling but firm. "She's just a baby. She didn't do anything to you." A whisper came, not through the air, but through Olivia's mouth. Her lips moved slowly, but it wasn't her voice. "I was just lonely." Tears stung Leah's eyes. She felt something shift inside her, a sorrow that wasn't hers, rising like smoke. "You were locked away, forgotten." "That wasn't your fault," she said. "You were a child. No one saw you. No one helped." The shadow flickered. The air grew less heavy. Olivia stopped crying and blinked slowly. "You were hurt," Leah continued, her voice breaking. "But hurting others won't fix it. You don't need to hold on anymore." Milo whimpered now. The low growl faded. He slowly sat, then lay down, his body finally at ease. The EMF reader on the floor let out one long, slow beep before falling silent. The pressure in the room lifted. The cold melted into warmth. The shadow softened. It didn't vanish all at once, it just let go. The air cleared. The clock turned 3:14. In the quiet, Olivia laughed just once, a soft, innocent giggle, as if the night had never happened. The next morning, Leah found the attic box sitting in front of the crib. She hadn't brought it. Down, no one had. Inside, everything was as she remembered, except one thing. A new journal page sitting on top, the ink still drying. "Thank you for seeing me." Tears spilled freely down her cheeks. Olivia woke smiling that morning, eyes clear and bright for the first time in weeks. She babbled cheerfully, grabbing for Milo's ears and kicking her legs with glee. Her appetite returned and color flushed back into her cheeks. It was like a fever had broken, and with it something darker had lifted. Milo was different too. He seemed lighter, not less protective, but at peace. He no longer growled at shadows or refused to leave Olivia's room. He'd still sleep near her, but sometimes he would sit by the window instead, ears perked up as if listening to nothing but the breeze. Leah hugged him tight. She understood now. Milo had been more than a rescue dog. He had been sent. A protector. A bridge between the living and the lost. Without him, Olivia wouldn't be here. Neither would she. The footage from the cameras that night showed very little, only static and flickers. Jonah's form didn't appear on playback. The bear never moved on screen. The only clear sound was Olivia's laughter and Milo's bark. But Leah knew what she had seen, and she didn't need the world to believe it. Still, a few months later, she anonymously shared part of their experience on a parenting forum. She wrote, "We adopted a rescue dog. He saved our baby's life from a ghost and helped a lost child find peace." The post went viral within days. Thousands of comments poured in, some skeptical, others stunned, many moved to tears. A local news outlet caught wind of the story, and though Leah declined to be filmed, she agreed to have Milo honored publicly. He received a medal and a plaque for bravery, loyalty, and unseen acts of heroism. Leah returned Jonah's box to the site of the old orphanage, now a small memorial garden. She placed the bear and journal inside a glass case with a note, "For the boy who waited to be seen." She never felt the presence again. But sometimes on quiet evenings, when the wind picks up just right and the swing set in the backyard begins to sway, Leah sees Olivia toddle to the porch, her tiny hand finding Milo's fur. She calls him with a giggle. "Miwo!" Milo wags his tail and sits beside her, ever the guardian. They sit in silence together, watching the swing rock gently on its own, not pushed by the wind, but maybe, just maybe, by the boy who had finally found his friend.